YouTube. It's taking all day. What's up, everybody on YouTube? What's up, everybody on Facebook? How you guys doing? We are going live. I know I haven't been live in a very, very long time. Now, if you're just watching this on later on, go ahead and skip to about 2 minutes before we actually get started. Let me do a few things that I should have done before I got started here, which is to place my phone. This on Do Not Disturb. So I'm gonna take about 2 minutes before we get started on here. I'm gonna do some sharing on my Facebook. But so right now, as people come on, just hey, how you doing? Let me know who you are, where you are, and like I said, we're gonna take about 2 minutes before we dive into this topic. I know I haven't done a live in a while, but we're gonna, I promise that I'm gonna get back to doing lives. So here we are. Here we are. It's been a month, been a minute. Got a lot to catch up on. Got a lot to catch up on. So it really is gonna be about 3 minutes. Got a lot to catch up on. I want to give gratitude for everybody who is a subscriber on my Facebook and my YouTube page. I appreciate you guys tremendously. Continue to share videos, share your opinions, your thoughts. My goal is to help people change lives. Hey, Lampkin, how you doing? Good to hear you and see you as well. Good to see everybody. Like I said, we're going to take a few minutes to get started. There we go. Got to get some sharing going here. I want to have some good participation on this one. As some of you guys know, recently I got engaged to Miss Donna Wall, and looking forward to that. That wedding coming up. We're going to have a premiere wedding real soon here. My volume is super low. Let me see. I don't know. It says it's up. I tell you what, let me put this, use the Bluetooth as a microphone. Then let me know how it goes. Let me know if the volume comes up better on YouTube. And we're going to continue on. If you got good volume on Facebook, let me know as well. But we're going to be getting married. I'm going to be getting married here soon. And a lot of things come up when you get ready to get married. And why is this not letting me share to my regular page? Some people will be dismayed at the fact that the person, about some qualities about the person that I'm marrying. But that's why we're going to talk about this. Some of the trials, I think that we need to get to a point where we have deeper understandings of things, not this base mind understanding that we have on most things. It's not letting me share what I want to share. But continue to introduce who you are. Let me make sure I haven't missed anybody. Joe Star, how you doing? Zach, what's up? How's everybody doing? Get some folks on here. Like I said, I want to give a couple of minutes before I get started. I don't know why I'm not able to do all my sharing that I want to do here. Like I said, I'm getting married soon, guys. Getting married. Yep. Oh, Coach Renz gonna tie the knot again. Gonna tie that knot. And I really hope that many of you guys can join us in our wedding events. This is going to be. It's already getting bigger than either one of us could have anticipated. We put out pretty much an open invitation for people to come to our wedding, to be able to participate, because we, for the most part, we want people there. We want people just to be there. So we opened up our wedding so that people can join us. It's going to be at the Georgia Aquarium. If you've never been there, it's a marvelous place. Huge habitat, huge whale tanks, beluga whale tanks, the whole oceans tank. That's going to be the background for the wedding event. And then the place holds like 700 people. We're looking at about 400 people that are already saying that they're going to be there. We have Wolfgang Puck is the caterer. If you're having an event at the Georgia Aquarium, Wolfgang Puck is the official caterer. So that's the caterer for the event. This thing is going to be huge, and I really want as many people as possible to be able to be there, to share in this event with us. It's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it, of course, and I hope you guys can join us. What, like I said, Wolfgang Puck, Georgia Aquarium. What we're asking is that you take care of your food and beverage, which we can't pay for 500 people, $75 for 500 people. That's beyond our ability, so we're not able to do that. So I want you guys to be able to show up. I don't know why I'm not being able to share this to my regular page. It's killing me. It's throwing me off. Who we got over here? Trey, how you doing? Elise, how you doing? Over on Facebook, the booking of the face. All right, I'm gonna do one more share, and then I'm going to get started because I am like way over what I said I was gonna do as far as just sharing on this thing and getting started, because this is a big subject. To be honest, it's a very, very big subject for some people to be able to grasp, people to be able to handle it. It just looks like I'm not going to be able to share it to my regular page on Facebook, and that's just going to have to be fine. But this is a big subject, and it's been a subject that many people have talked to me about, asked questions about. I did a video a while back talking about how do you deal with a relationship with somebody. Hey Dre, how you doing? I'm doing pretty good. How do you deal in a relationship with somebody who, thanks, appreciate the congratulations, who's of a different religion, right? So I gave them some ideas, some things to talk about, some hints, some things how you can make it work. I'm not in the mode of trying to make things not work. I rather things work out. I rather things be amazing for people, instead of being one of those people who are always looking to start an argument or fight, or want to have some kind of issue with people. I'm not that guy, and I never will be that guy. I know I got into a mode for a while where I was doing a bunch of debates, but that's not really me. I don't really care to debate things with people to a certain extent. Now, we're having a lively discussion, that's one thing, but a debate, I'm not interested in debates. That's why anybody who's tried to debate me recently over the last year, I told them, hey, here's my Cash App, put $1,000 in it. We can debate. You think anybody took me up on it? No, they didn't. So, oh well, whatever, right? So anyway, guys, we're going to talk about being unequally yoked equally versus unequally yoked marriages, spiritual versus a religious marriage. Before we get into actual doctrine of it, let's get some background. Let's get something to stand on here, subject matter. And of course, although I have this as a subject, and I have the things I want to talk about within this subject. If you have any questions or anything, or concerns or statements concerning this subject, we're going to stay within this subject. Please don't hesitate to put your questions up or your thoughts, and we'll take those sidebars and have those discussions. And of course, anybody super chats on YouTube, that's always awesome. But before we get started, let's briefly, so I was having a conversation with a gentleman the other day, and one of the things that I found interesting and in our discussion, because I often like to talk to people who are religious, because we can have a great discussion together if they are of a certain level of maturity within that thought process. And we talked about respecting each other's opinions, thoughts, religions, that sort of thing. And that's the first thing, is that I like to talk about respect. The other aspect that we talked about that I thought was interesting is the fact that he said that some people will come on and they'll say, well, Coach Renz, you don't talk as much about Islam or Buddhism or Confucianism or the Tao or anything like that in a more breakdown historical framework than you do Christianity. And me and this gentleman was having this conversation, and what we were discussing is that everybody comes from a certain framework of what you grew up with, like what you were surrounded by, what was in your core teachings as you came up as a child. So of course, being born into a Christian family, most of my thought process comes from Christianity, what I learned in Christianity. So of course, I'm going to gravitate more towards that information than any other. And the other aspect of it was, for the things that you keep, many people, when they walk away from a religion, they throw away everything. They throw, what is the saying? They throw out the baby with the bathwater. Well, here's the deal. I don't believe in throwing out the baby with the bathwater. And if you don't know where that saying comes from, it comes from the idea that the family would take a bath once a week. First, the father would bathe, and then clean water, and then the mother, and then the children, and then the last one will be the infant. But by the time the infant gets a chance to bathe, the water is so dirty that when you throw the bathwater out, you oftentimes will throw out the infant because the water is so filthy you don't see the infant. So that's a little colloquialism that saying comes from. So we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I don't throw out all the wisdom that is within the Hebrew and Christian Bible because I disagree with some of its tenets, because I disagree with some of its legalistic rituals and rules, which is, I don't do that. I dive deeper, and that's where I think we all should. So I do want to start this out because we're talking about marriage. I want to start marriage and relationship and love. I want to start out with something positive from the Bible, the Christian Bible. And when I say, here's the thing, when I say Christian Bible, I'm talking Old Testament, New Testament merged together. When I say Hebrew Bible, I'm specifically talking about the Old Testament, the Torah, because that, in truth, is what the Hebrew Bible for the most part is. It's just is the Old Testament plus a few other books and writings. All right. So, that's interesting. In 1 Peter 4 and 8, and I'm paraphrasing most of these things, it says to show deep love as something to the effect of show deep love as love covers a multitude of sins. Now, I'm not big on talking about sins. I'm not big on this whole idea of sin, everything's a sin this and a sin that and sin and all that stuff. But I think sin primarily is the things that you do against yourself more than anything or anybody else. Ooh, didn't mean to do that. Didn't mean to do that at all. Let me stop this. Don't know. We'll just do that. So here's the thing. Hey, Shauna, how you doing? Sandra, how are you? Sandra says she's coming to the wedding, y'all. So when I look at my upbringing and my understanding of the Christian Bible, although I can listen to somebody teach a message one way, I'm going to get a totally different message out of it most of the time. My message is not going to be their message. As recently, I was talking to a minister, and we were discussing the fact that, hey, you did this sermon about the three little Hebrew boys in the fiery furnace, and I understand what you got. I understand what you were saying, but I got a different message out of it. So it's things like that I want to, that's the kind of mindset that I have, and that's the kind of mindset I believe we all should have. Don't throw away the baby with the bathwater. So I'm going to go. So that's why I didn't mind using a verse out of the Christian Bible about how love just covers. Love is an amazing thing. If you don't have love for anything, then you're a sociopath, basically. You're a psycho. I don't know what's wrong with you. Everybody loves loves something. So we're going to talk. So I want that to be the main idea going over this entire whole entire discussion is about love. And this is going to be long, guys. This is going to be long. So I hope you buckled up. If you need come back later. But we're going to be in here for a minute. So as we go through this, I want you to understand that there are three types of viewpoints that you got to have, three types of thinking that permeates the brain, the life of most people. And those three types of thinking in this when we're talking about religion and spirituality, often we're looking at people who are exoteric, that's E-X, not E-S, exoteric. The exoteric person is somebody who's only looking at it from the surface. They look at the literal. They can only read the Hebrew Bible, the Christian Bible, the Vedics, the Quran, the Torah, the Bhagavad Gita. They can only read these things from the premise of what is literally in front of them. They can't go beyond what's literally in front of them. Anything else, they can't handle. They can't handle anything else beyond that. Just literally what's in front of them. So for those people, they are the masses. This is why when we talk about unequally yoked or equally yoked, when we get into the actual verse that most people utilize for that, they don't really understand what it's saying. And there's so many other passages they don't really understand what it's saying because they just taking in the exoteric idea of it. So we have to be able to go beyond the literal if we truly want to understand ourselves and our own divinity that I tell the divinity inside and the kingdom that and the heaven that you can have all around you, because otherwise you just end up with a hell all around you. Then there's the esoteric thought process. The esoteric thought process. Hey Fuller, hey Uganda, how you doing? Oh, Uganda, how you doing? So the esoteric is a deeper meaning when the person who can read between the lines, and that's what there are some who can be esoteric. And trust me, when I say this, I don't just mean, oh, if you woke, then you esoteric. No, there are many woke people who are exoteric. There are many woke people who can only take a literal stance on whatever they now deem as being woke. So the esoteric person actually looks between the line of both, no matter what the material is, no matter what the understanding, the wisdom, there is a deeper meaning. One of the things that seems to come to mind often with me when I discuss this with people is when we talk about the difference between knowledge. That was the knowledge of the Kemetic knowledge versus the Greek knowledge. And people say, oh, the Greeks, Pythagoras came and stole everything that he stole all the information and took it back to Greece, to Croton. Well, no, he didn't steal it. He applied to become part of the mystery schools in Egypt. And then after that, and after they accepted him, after 20 years of him trying, he actually was 40 years of trying, after him trying and finally gaining that acceptance, finally being able to learn everything, he took what he learned back to Croton, and that began the Greek culture. He didn't steal it, he just learned it and took it with him. See, even the woke person who will make that statement are looking at it from an exoteric standpoint, not an esoteric standpoint, where you then say he went and learned it and took it back and grew the culture with it. It would be the same way that if you are born here in America, you learn about Western finances, you learn about doing business, how we do business in America, and then you go to, let's say, a nation like the Congo in Africa that's suffering because of misusage, first because of oppression and now misusage of poor leadership and things of that nature. You're not stealing American knowledge. No, you're just taking what you've learned and reapplying it in a place that you feel needs your help or where you want to go to be. That's not stealing. So the esoteric mindset looks deeper. So when somebody talks about being equally yoked, and all they can say is just put it on one level of, you got to have the same religion. This is a person who's exoteric. The esoteric person who even says, oh, you got to have the same religion, but you also got to have this, and this, and understand what the religion is talking about. They're a little exoteric, but a little bit of esotericness going on in there. Where we all really want to go is to be an anagoge, right? We want to be. I don't know how to say the plural of it, but anagoge. So it's anagoge. You want to be there, even if I'm saying it wrong, I really don't care. Here, this is the hidden meaning. This is the place where the adepts live, the ones who reach the Christ mind, the Buddha mind, those who reach samadhi. This is where those people live. Those who understand the fullness of the Hermetics, whose minds reach beyond what is given to them, what is what is also what's given to them, then what's prophesized or what's theorized, and then the person who goes even deeper than that, who goes into a deeper philosophy to find out what is hidden, what most people cannot see and most people will not see. And these are the three mindsets that we have to have, and we want to be, at minimum, we want to be esoteric in our thinking. We don't want to be exoteric. We want to see things deeper. So oftentimes what we hear, and I know there are people making statements, but it's not popping up on my screen on Facebook for some strange reason, because I see it keep popping up. We don't see what's going on here. Somebody send a message, type something on Facebook. I see on my laptop, I can see it, the name, but I don't want the volume. Give me a second. Get this figured out a bit. But anyway, we're gonna keep it moving. I'll turn the volume down on this one, and then that way, if somebody says something on Facebook, I can actually see it. And now this part don't want to act right. Yeah, we just having all kind of issues, right? With this thing. So look, we're just gonna keep on keeping on. I don't know what's going on with this, why Facebook don't want to show me what y'all are saying. It's a conspiracy, right? It's a conspiracy. So most people who are coming from any religion, this is not just Christianity, but most religions, they have this idea that a person has to be what's called equally yoked, and they think that is, and that's coming out of 2 Corinthians 6:14. 2 Corinthians 6:14, it says something to the effect of, do not be yoked with unbelievers, for what does righteousness have in common with unrighteousness? What fellowship can the light have with the darkness? And people run off with that, believing that it's talking about relationships. And in truth, it's not talking about relationships. It's not talking about marriage relationship. They think that that's what Paul was discussing, was marriage relationships in that instance. Paul was not only, I mean, yes, you can look at it as a little bit of marriage. He was talking about all relationships. But you got to understand, at this time frame, Paul was looking at a situation where people were converting over. He was trying to build this church, build a movement. And there were many Romans that he was talking to. So when you look at what he's actually saying, you can take that into the light of, should you go out and hang out with people? If you're of a certain mindset, let's say you're an alcoholic, then you should not go out drinking, hanging out with the people who go and keep drinking, keep being alcoholics. You stay away from those people because their morals, their values are different from yours. Not that they're bad people, but they just are different now than what yours are. So you don't want to be around those kind of people. That's understandable. I'm not a rapist, so I'm not going to go hang out with other rapists. I'm not a pedophile. I'm not going to go hang out with other pedophiles. I'm not trying to be around those people. Even though in the Christian Bible, Jesus is always hanging around people who are unbelievers. And we can say that was his mission. But that's what they did. But Paul is not saying this is a definitive, don't marry somebody who doesn't have the same belief. If anything, there's more in the Christian and Hebrew Bible that tells you of people being in relationship with people of different beliefs and them flourishing because they exhibited other aspects that the Hebrew and Christian Bible actually discuss, right? So for all those people, and I hate that I can't see these comments. I don't know why this is going on this one. For all those people who are, somebody on YouTube YouTube is able to make comments, so that was fine. I don't know why Facebook don't want to act right. But for all those people who will stay stuck in the framework of thinking that this is only relationship, you're going to miss out on a lot of great relationships that you can have with people. Now, if I'm someone who's of great finances, I'm not trying to hang around with a bunch of people who are broke. You know, they were saying if there are 9 people with 9 broke people and you're the 10th one, you're going to be the 10th one. Your goal should be to raise a person up. But when we're talking about relationship, it's not so much about the religion as it is about the person, the heart of the person. There's a part that I always liked in Ephesians 4, 2 through 3, and I'm paraphrasing, but it basically says, with humility and gentleness, with patience and love, then you will have the unity of the spirit, right? And you will have peace. Right, so it's talking about being together, but being together, coming together under those guys. But it gives you some points. Got to have humility. Got to have gentleness. Got to have some patience. You got to have love in order to unite the spirit. Right? These are things that you need for yourself in order to unite your own spirit. But many people, they skip those parts and they say, "Oh, you got to be equally yoked. Both of y'all got to believe in Jesus, or both of y'all got to believe in Allah." But here's the thing: if you look at the marriage rates and then look at the divorce rates, there are just as many people who are of the same religion who get divorced as people who are different religion. There are just as many people who are religious, period, who get divorced as there are people who aren't religious at all. They all get divorced. Everybody gets divorced. So the real question, the deeper question, should be who is the person you're marrying? What are the values of the person you're marrying? And if you're saying that the only way you can have values, because some people do believe that like an atheist can't have values. I think that's idiotic. Or they'll say that the values of a Muslim person or the values of, a Hindu person, that if a person who's Hindu and a person who's Christian, if they were to get married, who's to say that their values aren't the same? They both teach love. They both teach kindness. They both teach how to take care of your money. They both teach how to be gentle but also stern with your children. They both teach to take care and honor your parents. They both teach you to take care of the planet, to take care of everything around you, that you got dominion over everything. They both teach you this. So if both the Hindu and the Christian are both being taught that same thing, hey Riri, how you doing? Taught that same thing, then where is it in your mind that you say that they don't have values? They have values. So you can't, they got morals. The question is, are your morals the same? Are your values the same? I can't tell you how many people I've seen who are of the same religion, and the man most of the time beats his wife. They show up in the church, they show up at temple, they show up in the synagogue, they're out there at the mass, but yet they beat their wives. If you go to a prison, almost everybody in prison got a religion. Almost everybody has a religion, but yet they're in prison. And they had their religion before they went to prison. So when you're looking at a mate, it is not so much what they believe, well, rather who they believe in or who they call God, the name, the label that they put on what is God, but really, what are they living? How are they living? What is this person's attitude like? What's their character? That's the bigger question. And for those who will say that, oh, well, but the Bible said it. So let's look at a few things. And I just wrote down a few, just a few, not a whole lot of them, because if you're going to say that, oh, you can't marry somebody outside your religion, well, or it's going to end in disaster, well, let's see. There's this lady named Esther in the Bible. One night with the king. I did a video about that one. And now Esther, she was a Hebrew. Xerxes, the king, he wasn't. He worshiped Marduk, right? Now, he worshiped Marduk, but they got together. They went through their whole process. She gave him that one night. They fought, I think it was like Lebanon or whatever the guy's name, tried to mess them all up. But they went through a whole ordeal, and they wound up being a married couple. And the Hebrew people thrived, and the Babylonians thrived. If you don't know anything about Xerxes beyond the Bible, then you would understand that Xerxes created one of the largest Persian kingdoms ever known. And he thrived. Right? Oh, now Facebook is showing me what y'all saying. Do you consider a piece of paper is the proper way to marriage? This is by Rico Reese on Facebook. All right. Thank you. I'm glad the comments started coming up. Let me tell y'all, let me give you a little background on that one. So, as if you're on our Facebook page, Tag Team Wedding, or on the website, Tag Team Wedding, you'll see this young lady that I'm about to marry named Donna. Donna has been my friend for over 7 years, right? For over 7 years we've been friends. And one of the conversations that her and I had, that we had for the majority of that 7 years, is when does the marriage start? Is the marriage the piece of paper? And I told you guys, even though I got a lot that I want to talk about, I'm answering your questions today that's on this subject. Don't go off this subject, please. But I was always of the mindset, and still am, that the paperwork has absolutely nothing to do with your spiritual marriage. If I added anything else in the title of this, it would have been spiritual versus religious versus civil marriage. So the paper is your civil marriage. The actual marriage, the true spiritual marriage, the thing between you and your creator, like there's a part in Isaiah that says that, no, in Malachi and Isaiah, I think, but I know in Malachi, it talks about how God witnessed, he said the Lord witnessed the marriage between the woman of your youth, right? So it's talking about how the only witness that you need to marry somebody, if you believe in a spiritual divinity, is that spiritual divinity. You don't need man as a witness. You don't need anything of man to determine whether or not you're married. One of my fathers, Pappy Gray. When Pappy was like, good 70 years old, him and this young lady, they were dating. They wanted to be a married couple, but because of she was a widower of a retired Air Force airman, if she got married to him, they would cut her pay. She wouldn't get paid anymore. So they never went and got the paperwork done. And my sweetheart Donna just came on to Facebook, so I know she's gonna love this part that we're here. But they never got the paperwork. But they went down, they talked to their pastor, they did a ceremony. In the eyes of their creator, they were married. The paperwork actually would have messed up their finances because she wouldn't have got that retirement, that sweet, sweet VA and military retirement that she was getting from her deceased husband. So they never did the paperwork. Now, in most instances, the paperwork is a good thing. The paperwork takes care of anybody's claim on the house, anybody's claim on property, anybody's outside of you two claim on anything that you two have built together. The paperwork is good for transferring those things. The paperwork can be damaging to some people. If you end horribly, it can be a damaging thing. But for the most part, it's good. If you want to receive your spouse's Social Security benefits, you need that paperwork. You can't get it without that. Now, there are things that a power, and this is what me and Donna used to argue about. And I used to tell her all the time. She would say, well, you can't, what about the business? Power of attorney, prenuptial agreements, those things can handle all of that. And so we fight about that. Hey, Rashonda Holmes, better see you at the wedding too. But there were points that she would make that I couldn't, like Social Security. Yeah, you got to have a marriage certificate to do that. Is it easier if you got a marriage certificate? Sure, it's much easier if you got a marriage certificate. But that's where I separate and said that's the civil marriage. That's the marriage of man. But the marriage of the spirit, the marriage of the heart, the marriage of the mind, the marriage of the emotion, the marriage of the soul, all of that paper ain't got nothing to do with it. And I hate that so many people put so much emphasis when they talk about marriage as the paper and the ceremony. The marriage started, like I tell Donna, that May 15th of 2020, when I sat there in that restaurant and I said that you're my lady, I'm your man, and we're married, and we're gonna do the legal thing because I know that's what she needs and she requires, and I understand that, and I understand her rationale for it. But for me, it started then. That's when it started. It's not gonna start when we have our premiere wedding on February 22nd. That's not when it's gonna start. And and like I said, you guys are invited to the box office marriage wedding, which is February 21st, 2021. But that's when it starts. So the paper is good. It has its reasons, has its rationale. I see in most cases I'm going to tell people get your paperwork done, especially if there are going to be children involved and all that sort of thing. But beyond that, no, there's no, the marriage ain't got nothing to do with that paper. But me and Donna for years used to discuss and argue about that one. That's what I tell you guys. She was my friend. So basically, it's the commitment. Yeah, so basically, marriage is the true emotional commitment that you have. Because for the piece of paper that starts the marriage, there's another piece of paper that ends the marriage. Right? But what truly ends and that's civilly, but what truly ends the marriage is your heart. When that connection is broken. In the Islamic tradition, in order to get a divorce, you have to be away from your spouse for 30 days. Don't live with your spouse for 30 days. Don't speak to your spouse for 30 days. Don't make love to your spouse for 30 days. And then you can get a divorce. In actuality, in most cultures, ancient and even truly up to today, most cultures, marriage doesn't even begin until you have intimacy. Like there's actually no. Okay, well, let me rephrase it. When people say thou shalt not fornicate, when Paul was writing about fornication in that time frame didn't mean having sex out of wedlock. What fornication meant was men having sex with young boys. That's what fornication means. But of course, as time has went on, the word has changed its meaning. There is no fornication between a man and a woman. Now there's rape, yes, but if you got two willing people who have sex, that's marriage. If you are married to somebody and you have sex with another person, that's adultery. So there's only marriage and adultery as far as with consent, and then there's rape. That's it. That's it. And fornication meant to have sex with young boys. And that's what Paul was saying, stop fornicating. Because the Greeks and Romans, that was a large part of their culture, was I'm married, but I have sex with, my young male slaves. That was what they did. So, and we can see how that mentality still carried over until the American slavery. So yes, true marriage is the commitment. True marriage is the commitment. So married for women last week. Joe, no, Joe, you didn't marry 4 women last week. You marry one and you commit an adultery with the others. So I don't know who the first one was, but it's that separation of the spirit and the mind, the ego, all that stuff is what makes it divorce. So yeah, but when people do talk about the Hebrew Bible, about not marrying somebody or marrying somebody of a different religion, and people like to put it in a bad phrase. I told you about Esther and Xerxes. Well, what about Ruth? I know you're gonna like what? So Ruth, many people like say, you'll hear people say, I'm Ruth and I want my Boaz. But there's a lot about Ruth and Boaz that people don't realize. Now I did do a video where I talked about Ruth and Boaz, and it's not the most favorable character. It's not who you want to emulate the most. And I called his Ruth's mother-in-law Miss Jackson because of the way she was acting in that story. But if you look at that story, Ruth was a Moabite woman who married, why am I forgetting that lady's name? Naomi, who married Naomi's sons. At no point, but while Ruth and Oprah was married to Naomi's son, they never converted over to Judaism. They stayed being Moabite women, right? And many people will say that, well, see, that's why the sons died and the husband died. They ain't had nothing. The story says nothing about that's why they died, because they married the sons married outside of their tribe, and that's what it is, a tribe, their religious tribe at the time. No, they died for whatever reason they died of, right? Hold on. Eden says, "Oh, I know it's off topic, but you and Donna are adorable. You are the poster children for all things romantic." Actually, Eden, that is not off the subject, because the whole purpose of this video is because, and let me give you the overlay. I tell people that, and I tell Donna all the time, our marriage, our relationship, our love for each other will be the epitome of what true love is supposed to look like. That it goes beyond the labels that we give. It goes beyond these conditions that we've set up as society. You're messing up my ending speech of this, but it's okay. That's a little bit of it right there. But the fact of the matter, Ruth she didn't flip over to Judaism, to the Hebrew, because she got married to Ruth's sons, nor because she got married to Boaz. If you actually look at the story, Ruth flipped over for her love and respect of Naomi. Oprah was like, okay, deuces, she was out. But Ruth was like, nah, no, Naomi, that whole thing when she said, your God will be my God, your people will be my people, all that sort of thing. That whole statement was made to Naomi, not made to Boaz. And some people say, well, she had to make that statement in order to be with Boaz. No, for whatever reason, Ruth didn't want to go back home. Now, I don't know if it was because she knew that there was no men at home, that her father wouldn't receive her. We don't know what the conditions were in her home with her parents. We have no idea of the story. The story doesn't talk about that. And if you look at most of these stories, the character building of the women, they don't really do. Everything's about the dudes in these stories. But Ruth made that declaration because she wanted to be with Naomi. She went with Naomi. Now you continue to read the story. She seduced Boaz by laying at his feet at night when she knew he had a little something to drink. He was coming back from the week party, and then both of them connived together, scammed up the older gentleman who should have been able to marry Ruth first and take the land that their cousin had, but he kind of like did a Jedi mind trick on him. And then Ruth and Boaz got together, and of course after them, they children, I think Obadiah and Jesse and David is their line. So that's why Ruth is important. But Ruth was a Moabite woman. Abraham's first wife, Kitra, she was not Hebrew. Matter of fact, the grandson who became Jacob, whose name is Jacob, who became Israel, wasn't even around yet. So Abraham's first wife actually was Samaritan. Abraham's first wife was Samaritan. Most of y'all didn't know Abraham had a first wife, did y'all? Y'all thought Sarah was the first wife. That's what you get for just being exoteric instead of esoteric. But the first wife, and that may even be Anagor. Judah married Shu. Judah wife was Canaanite. Joseph, the one with Joseph who was sold off by his brother, who was thrown into a pit by his brother, then sold off to his into slavery, then sold into the Egyptian. Then the Egyptian lady flip-flopped on him, sent him to jail. Then he became, the visitor of the king. Joseph married Asenath, an Egyptian priestess. She was the daughter of an Egyptian priestess. Wasn't Hebrew, but look at who Joseph is in the Hebrew religion in Judea, in the history of Israel. He's a very important person to their history. He didn't marry. He married outside of his tribe, and it was fine, and he was blessed, and his whole family was blessed, and everybody was blessed, right? So when people tell me about unequally yoked and it ends in disaster, these are some of the things I throw out, and one of the big ones that I throw out is Moses, all right? Moses married Zipporah. Zipporah was her father was a Midian priest. Now, many people don't know who the Midians worship, all right? And it's funny, because guess who the Midians worship? They worship Baal. Letting that one sink in. And they worship Baal, whose wife's name was Asherah, the goddess mother, the mother of all God, the mother goddess. And if you can do a deeper study into Baal and Asherah, then you'll understand that when the Babylonians came out of captivity, they dropped and he said, "Thou shalt not worship Baal anymore. You will not call me Baal anymore." One of the things that the Hebrews who were in captivity before Cyrus the Great released them in the 550s, they dropped Baal and renamed an El and dropped Asherah, and this was the first time that they were talking about a monotheistic God that did not have a birth, right? Before that, even the Ammon had a birth, right? Everybody had a birth. All these the main deeds had a birth. This was one of the first times in this area of the world, because there are other areas of the world where the ultimate creator didn't have a birth either. But in this area of the world, this is the first time there was a birth of the primary God, and they got rid of that. It was the first time they got rid of the birth, and they got rid of a mother, a wife, as well. So, but Zipporah worshiped the Baal before this change happens. So, and she never converted. There's absolutely nothing in the Bible that shows, in the Hebrew Bible, that shows that Zipporah converted. She supported her husband. She was down for him on their way to Egypt, to Pharaoh's land. They stopped at an inn. I forgot where this is exactly, but they stopped at an inn, and God was going to come and kill Moses. And I forgot why he was going to kill Moses, but he was going to come and kill Moses. And it was kind of weird. Hey, go do this thing, but I'm going to kill you. But he's going to kill Moses. Now, they had sons. They had a couple of sons. And maybe they were going to kill Moses because they hadn't circumcised the boys. I don't know. But in the story, it says that Zipporah, while Moses was asleep, knowing that God was coming to kill Moses, cut the foreskins off her sons, circumcised their sons, took the bloody husk of skin, put it against Moses' feet, and said, "You see, we are bound by blood. We are bound by blood now." And so God didn't kill Moses, and then Moses goes on and does what he does. Now Moses goes about his business. He does all these things. Does all the things according to the story. Interesting thing about it is that Moses could have. People often say that Miriam criticized Moses for marrying Zipporah, but it could also be based on the fact that, because she said she criticized for marrying a Cushite woman, which is an Ethiopian. There is a Jewish historian who talks about how Moses led a campaign. I think his name is Athapan, led a campaign against Ethiopia, and there was an Ethiopian queen who fell in love with Moses, and they got married. But then Moses didn't know she wanted Moses to stay there. Moses didn't want to stay, so but Miriam had talked bad about the lady, and then Miriam got leprosy for talking bad about the lady. And then Moses knew that he had to leave the lady, so he got 2 rings and he cast spells on the ring. 1 ring makes you forget, 1 ring lets you remember. Moses wore the ring that lets you remember. She wore the ring that lets you forget. And then after she forgot about Moses, Moses went on back to Egypt. For those who love historians, this is what a Jewish historian wrote in the 1st and 2nd century BCE. Hey. And I'm going to leave that right there. So, Moses, the progenitor of the majority of things that people actually believe. The 10 Commandments, all the stuff in Deuteronomy, the writing, he said he wrote Genesis, all this stuff. Married to a black woman. I like to throw that part in. And they thought he was Egyptian. So he must look pretty dark skinned himself. But anyway, that's not a point that we're trying to make here. But he married Zipporah. Zipporah never converted. Even when Zipporah's daddy's name just fell out my head right then. His name's not Joseph. If somebody remembers his name, please throw it up for me. But even when he got word that Moses had came out of Egypt with all these people, and that they had destroyed the Amalekites, something like that, came to him like, man, good job. You know what, your God, and he's telling him, your God is like powerful. Your God is like on point, bro. And then they did a sacrifice for, Yahweh. It doesn't mean that Jethro, that's the name, Jethro converted over. It just means that Jethro respected and recognized the power of Moses' God. But he doesn't say he died, because he said the God on the mountain, which I always thought was interesting. God on the mountain? Okay. So Moses married outside of his tribe. If you read the book of Kings, many of the kings of Judea married women outside the tribe. Judah marries Tamar. Tamar is not Hebrew either. Now we do have those who were jacked up. Samson was all captivated by Delilah, the Philistine woman. You saw what happened to him. Solomon was good to go. Then he started marrying like 300 wives, 700 concubines. And it was him losing himself. So he lost all kinds of things right there. In Deuteronomy, where it talks about, and many people who talk about unequally yoked and equally yoked, they'll also point to Deuteronomy. Well, the passage in Deuteronomy specifically says, do not marry people of these 7 tribes. It doesn't say do not marry people outside of the Hebrew faith. It says don't marry people out in these particular tribes. But people will take that little bit and expand it into the whole MCU universe, right? It doesn't work that way. If you're going to take it and say that this is what it says literally in this part, this is the exoteric mind. Literally exoteric, EX. You got to put the same principle on that part that you just said as well. All right? And understand that when most of these things that did say don't marry anybody, outside of the Hebrew religion or do your religion, this was during times where, like, during the Babylonian captivity, when the Hebrews were exiled into Babylon and the people were losing themselves and they were being oppressed. Then they said, stay within our group. They're trying to keep you politically within the group. This was religious leaders doing it for that particular reason. It will be in the same instance as during American slavery. People was like, don't marry or deal with white people, black people who are enslaved, because this is how they treat you. This is how things are. During the 60s, there were a lot of people who were of that mindset. In the 20s, of that mindset. So this was a political thing and a cultural thing, not so much a religious thing. Just like many racist white people will say, don't marry a black man or a brown man, because why? You're diluting the race. You're getting rid of the white race. I literally have racist people say the white race will die off simply because we're marrying outside of our race, and we can't do that. We can't let them die off. Napoleon marry for a long time in France and other places. Jewish people marrying outside of the Jewish culture wasn't something deemed by God. It was deemed by the government. It wasn't. Napoleon made it legal for Jews to marry. In 1844, there was a rabbinical conference that they said, okay, Hebrew people can marry people outside of the Hebrew religion, because before that they were saying that it wouldn't be, it never happened, and still Orthodox Jews to this day, if a Hebrew person marries a Christian, then the Hebrew person said, I want a divorce, then the rabbi would say, nah, you never was married in the first place. But 1844, a rabbinical congress said that no, as long as the two are monotheistic, then hey, y'all good. As long as both y'all are monotheistic, y'all are both good. And then as long as you live in a place where the children have the ability to be raised Jewish. You don't have to raise them Jewish, but as long as they have the legal right to do so, because in 1844 and prior to that, many countries didn't allow you to be Jewish, right? So in that conference of 1844, it really sticks home the point of unequally yoked and equally yoked. It has changed based on political mindsets and what's going on in the world. I mean, think about it. These rabbis said, hey, as long as the two are monotheistic, the marriage is good. We're good. Because they're taking a more esoteric and I can't say that word. They're taking an esoteric mindset on it, and they're saying that, hey, as long as both of y'all believe that there is one God, we're good. How you worship that one God, we're not so much worried about that. But most of us are in this mindset where people have you confused and you've gotten lost. And you've gotten lost and you forgot things like in Romans 3:8, it says, and I can't read my own handwriting, it says that it says some other stuff first, but it's saying the same thing. I just didn't feel like writing down the other stuff. But the main part of that whole passage is that one who loves another has fulfilled the law. Has fulfilled the law. So those who are of a Christian Hebrew religion, those who grew up spiritually, who are spiritual, like I claim for myself as being spiritual, but I grew up with a Christian background, so I still look at the wisdom. I don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I would look at a verse like this and say that the one who loves another has fulfilled the law. That if I love Donna and all the things that go in with love is patient. I know if Donna, you still watching this, love is patient. No, she know. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is all these love. Everything that love is, right? Then whatever law she goes by, then I am fulfilling that law, right? Because it is more about my character and how I treat her. It's more about my values and my morals. I'm not the man that's going to beat her. I'm not the man that's going to cheat her out of money. I'm not the man that's going to mentally abuse her. I'm not the man that's going to ignore her. You know, ignoring a person is worse than, like literally worse than abusing a person. They've shown where a person who is ignored actually have more depression and anxiety and issues and becomes more suicidal than a person who is verbally yelled at and abused all the time. Like a baby will die if it is ignored. So, you know, we got to understand these kinds of mindsets that, you know, it is that love that makes more of a difference. What is it? Colossians 3:14. And over all these virtues, put on love, which brings them all together in unity. I think it's talking about the whole armor of God. But it is without love. What does that armor mean? Without love, what does all your morals mean? Your morals have no power without love, right? Neglect is abuse. Neglect is the worst abuse. I said, oh gosh, that's racist. I don't want my lineage mixing. I want them to have black family. Although I know I can't control it, I prefer it black and not erase me. And Rashawn, I understand. I tell my kids all the time. This is how I raised my children. I say, look, what's most important is who the person is, how they treat you. The character of the person, the morals and the values that the person have, how they treat you, that's the most important aspect of it. Now, beyond that, what you need to understand is Ooh, I only got 10% battery on this thing. What you need to understand is you live in a world where racism exists. And because you live in a world where racism exists, you have to realize what life would be like if you are married to have children with someone who is outside of your race. Now, race doesn't really exist because if I peel all your skin back, y'all look the same. if you believe in a spirit, a spirit of soul, then that is energy. If you believe we're all energy, energy has no color. Energy has zero color, and we can talk about melanin all day, but white people got melanin. They just don't have as much melanin as you do, right? Because I think people with zero melanin are the ones who can't even go out into the sun. They're like beyond the can't forget what do you call people? The video interrupted. What do you call the people? Albinos. This beyond out being an albino. So I'm not even they got melanin in them. Basically, is what the point is to that one. So they got melanin. But we're all energy. Thank you, albino. But we're all, at the end of the day, we're all energy. Energy has no color. But we do live on this earth. We live in this dimensional plane of existence where race exists. And since it exists, we have to deal with it. So yes, life would be easier. I tell my children, marry who you want to marry, but know that life is much easier and if you're married to somebody who look like you, because the world will treat you differently, and the world will treat your kids differently, right? My Facebook went out for a minute, so sorry, Facebook people. But the world will treat you differently based on the way you look and your race and that sort of thing. So it's better to marry somebody of the same race. It's easier. Hell, I even go as far as say marrying somebody of the same religion is easier. But that doesn't mean it's going to be better. Just like marrying somebody of the same race doesn't mean it's going to be better. Might be easier in dealing with society, but it may not be better in your home. It may not be better in your home. And that's where a lot of people are missing out. They're missing out on understanding that I'd rather, because some people look at me like I'm crazy. Coach Renz, how you marrying a woman who's a Christian? Yes, Donna's Christian. And some people are not going to be able to understand that. Right? How can Coach Renz marry someone who's Christian? Well, because one, she's not exoteric. If Donna was exoteric, we would not be here. We would still just be friends. I mean, that's just the truth of it. We still just be friends. If she was exoteric, meaning she only look at things for the literal. But she's esoteric. So she looks at the deeper meaning of things. She reads between the lines. Now, I am more anagogic, where I look at the hidden meanings. I see the hidden meanings. I don't expect people to be able to see the hidden meanings of things. Most people will never see the hidden meaning. I'm just being honest. Most people just never going to see it. It's not a put down, nor is it a prideful lifting up of myself. It's just what it is. And that's one of the things about being those kind of people who can see the hidden meanings of things, is that in a lot of ways the ego is not present. And so I don't say this to lift myself up. I say this as just a truth. It's just a truth. I can see a hidden meaning in most things. I can see the hidden meaning. And it pisses off people who are esoteric. It pisses off the exoteric people. A lot of people who used to follow me don't follow me anymore because I won't sit up here and just run the gambit with them and just try to crush somebody's religion. Why? Because I'm looking at a deeper meaning. There's a hidden meaning beyond just, should you worship this or should you worship that? What are you doing to impact the universal mind? What are you doing to impact the universal energy? And let's not even say universal, just the energy of the planet, the people that you're around. What are you doing that impacts those people's energy, that bonds you together? Many people don't realize that in order for your life to thrive and anybody else's life to thrive, you do better on positive energy than negative energy, right? It's like negative energy is like putting that 84, is it 84, 87 or 84 octane gas in a sports car. Your mind, your consciousness is like the best damn sports car ever created. It needs premium fuel It needs jet fuel. That's how good it is. It needs the best fuel that ever possibly can be given to it. But yet, you want me to give it this negativity, which is muddying up the engine. It's clogging the engine. It's causing you to not function at a high level. And because of that, you stay right here on this third dimensional plane, never being able to elevate your consciousness. You know, I talked about Jethro being a Midianite priest. The people who are following the path that Jethro was back then are called the Druze. They are Druze. That's the name of this religion. It's a very small religion. It's only about 1 million plus people who are of that religion in the world. Most of them are in the Middle East and Syria and Lebanon. But the Druze people believe they have a mixture of some Islamic ideas, some Buddhist, some Hindu, and a lot of philosophies from like the Hermetics and Plato, Socrates, and all these people. But it's the idea that for them, and this is a cultural thing that's very widespread, for them it is the idea that you continue to cycle through this life. Not exactly like reincarnation, so to speak, but you cycle through this life until you reach a high consciousness to rejoin with the cosmic mind, with God, with the Creator, with the Brahman, the Buddha, the Buddha head, the cosmic energy, the infinite intelligence. You recycle life until you get to that conscious level. Most people can't get there right now because they're feeding their mind with this negativity. So some people don't follow me anymore because I won't get up here and just debate, and let me crush your religion. Let me tell you how stupid you are. Let me tell you you're an idiot. Let me tell you you're dumb. Let me make you cry. And, you know, I do want to apologize for making that one dude cry a couple years ago. But, you know, let me, you know, all that stuff is like they don't do that. I don't do as many historical videos. And, of course, I'll get back to just talking about, I'll break down the more esoteric ideas of what the Bible is trying to tell you so that you can read between these lines and still use it as wisdom, but not necessarily mean you got to follow that faith. All right. Back on track. I love the energy, not the emotion. Right. Will you be joined by a Christian minister? I'm not so sure about that. There's a few Christian ministers who I can talk to. I just met one not too long ago, and we've had some great conversations. All right. And I was surprised at some of the things that he thought. But when it comes to marrying somebody, your person needs to be equally yoked in that. Be open-minded enough to be able to say, hey, I can learn from you and you can learn from me. They need to be equally yoked to say that what are your financial goals and what are my financial goals? How do you live your life? Because I was dating a woman, I couldn't deal with the uncleanliness and disorganization of her home. That wouldn't work for me. The way she raised her kids, couldn't deal with that either. One woman, her ambition level was so low, I couldn't deal with that either. I mean, we were so unequally yoked in that one. She's so passive that I couldn't deal with it. You know, people have different, something that's, I'm 48 years old, you know. You want to have a baby. I'm not having a baby. Heck, that was when I was 38 years old. I wasn't having a baby. I'm done with that. But, you know what I'm saying? Equally yoked is far more than just something of a religious nature. It is a whole mindset, a lifestyle, a spirituality. But most importantly for me is how do you treat me? I'm a super affectionate person. I literally met somebody who said I got to get used to holding hands. What? Made no sense to me. Can't do it. Made no sense. But, you know, so to be unequally yoked is far beyond this as, oh, do you believe in Jesus? Yes, I believe in Jesus. We're equally yoked. No, hell, no, you're not. No, you're not. As a matter of fact, Joe Starr, you said, will I be joined by a minister? Me and a minister that I was just talking to recently, we was discussing the whole thing about being married to people. And he talked about how there were many people that are in his church that he know that they're not equally yoked. Both have come up there. Both are believers in Jesus. Both have been baptized into the church and that sort of thing. But he know that the guy only did that because he wants to marry this woman. And then once they got married, he never showed up again. The guy doesn't show up anymore. He knows, he sees, and he says he looks out and he sees the people that he know are only there because they married somebody, and they're not, and they only came because they wanted to marry this person. But the way they treat that person, they know that they're not treating them as they should, right? As they are supposed to, that they don't live what they say they believe. And that's the main thing about that. I look, I tell my sweetheart all the time, well, not all the time, but I've told her many times that what's more important for me is for you to live what you believe. Live what you believe, right? If what you believe says that you're supposed to be loving, be loving. If you're supposed to be forgiving, be forgiving. If you're supposed to be mindful of how you do your money, be mindful of how you do your money. If you're supposed to, how you're supposed to raise your kids that way. If live what you believe. If you live what you believe, then we're going to be pretty good. Because if you look at the core beliefs, and that's all I care about is the core beliefs, not all the man-made crap. Not all the man-made crap. If you live your core belief, if you believe that love, that God is love, and you live that, and you believe that God is inside you and all around you, and you live that, and that is living in love, I'm with you. Because if you believe in gentleness and patience, if you believe in having fun and enjoying each other, if you believe that your husband or wife is the most important person in your life, that they come before your children and all these other people, if you believe in leaving and cleaving, then we're good. If you believe in not forcing other people to follow what you believe, but to love them, to love your brother as your neighbor, we're good. But if you're that person that you got to throw stones at everybody, that you got to cast judgments at everybody, tell everybody they're going to hell, if you're that person that thinks that, nobody else can have morals, that God can't love anybody other than you in your own section. I knew a girl they grew up in Iowa, went to a church in Hawaii, and they realized and said that only the people who go to that little church is going to heaven. That means all the rest of you Christians are going to hell, according to that girl. Like, if you're that person, I can't deal with you, right? I can't, no. So live it. Live what it is that you say you believe. Now, when I look at the story of Samson and Delilah, what I see is Samson being fooled that some good punani done got his mind all jacked up. Because that's all Delilah did. He was married to an Israelite woman at first. And his parents offered him other Israelite women. But Delilah had that good. She had that good cookie. And he couldn't help it. And this fool literally, tie me up with some new ropes, and then all my strength is gone. And then the Philistines are upon you. He breaks free. And she's like, why you keep lying to me? And he keep falling for it. What you got to do is bind me in the bed, or whatever the other one was. The woman kept setting him up, but he kept going. That's some good punani. That's some good stuff. So it's like, where was Samson's morals? Where was his mindset, his mentality? It is not the difference in religion that messed up Samson and Delilah. It is the character flaws of Samson that messed it up. Samson was deeply flawed. I mean, we're talking about a dude who lost a bet, right? By who first set up a bet that only he could answer, told one person what the answer was. That person betrayed him. Then, when they figured out what the bet was, went and stole the people's clothes and stuff in order to pay the bet back off. This is a psychopath. So when I see black people saying, oh yeah, Samson was black, and you all are excited about that, this dude is stupid and crazy. No, so it is not his marriage to Delilah. It is not the fact that they was a different religion. It's that Samson is a psychopath. That's why that relationship didn't work. That's why. Solomon got all up into his ego. That's why that didn't work. That's why it didn't work. But then why did Ruth work? Why did Esther work? Why did Joseph's wife work? Why did Zipporah work? They had different religions, but they worked. It's because of the character of the person and how they work and how they live their lives. And that's what I'm saying, people. That's what I'm saying. There is another part of the wisdom of that is within the Bible that I do like. And it's 1 John 4:12. It says, no man has seen God. And don't get stuck there, some of you guys. But if we love one another, God lives in us, and his love is made complete in us. So what I'm saying is, and we're going to get ready to wrap this up. When you marry someone, or you become in a relationship with someone, if that person deeply, truly loves you, and you deeply, truly love them, then the God goddess inside you is existing in love. And that love will make the two of you complete. That will make you complete. It won't be your belief in a deity that makes you complete, but it will be the love that both of you have inside yourself that you show to one another that will make you complete. My sweetheart Donna, she loves gifts. Gifts is her way of receiving love. So it is for me to make sure I love her in that format. I don't receive love through gifts. She is a gift giving person, and it's cool. It's cool, but that ain't how I really receive love. And I've expressed those things, and she shows me love in the way that I receive love. So it works because we are learning. Not only do we have that, but we're learning that daily, more and more and more and more and more daily. Every day I learn more about how to love her. And even though I don't always get it right, I do my best to try to show her that I love her every day. And she does the same back to me. When we have misunderstandings, before me, and I don't know if she's still listening, but I'm going to say it anyway. Before me, she would argue to win, right? That whomever she had dealt with in the past, they must have just been arguing to have superiority and reign over each other. That's not me. I discuss in order to resolve and get back to happy. It irritates her to no end that we can have an argument, we can have a discussion. After we realize if I'm wrong and I apologize and it's sincere, I'm back to happy immediately. She got to work it out a little bit. Then she irritated because I'm back to happy. But I don't care. But I've watched her, and instead of me trying to force her to be like that, I've watched her realize that there's no reason to carry all of that. That that's poison to your system. You need positivity in your life, not negativity, right? I'm sure she has noticed. I thought that I was organized. I am nowhere near as organized as my Donna. And I know I have irritated her to no end in the levels that I am not as organized. But you know what? I know she has noticed I've gotten better. I've gotten better. And I've purposely gotten better because she's made me better. Right? I see the benefits of being even more organized than I was before. Which is why business is doing much better for me because I'm more organized. It's why life is doing much better for me because I'm more organized. It's all because she's shown me that. Right? And that's love, y'all. That is a form of being equally yoked, where my weakness is strengthened by seeing that strength in her, and vice versa. Where I am still weak, she brings it up. She swoops in and take care of it. And the same way with her, I swoop in and take care of the areas where she's weak. We're balancing each other, right? That's love. Does that have anything to do with who we believe in? No. It has something to do with how we believe, how we live, what we live. And that's what makes you equally yoked, not a religion. A religion doesn't make you equally yoked. Your spirit makes you equally yoked. And your spirit is a combination of your thoughts, your emotions, and your soul, all together wrapped up to understand who you really are. Who you really, really are. There's a part of Gospel of Thomas. Love it. I've said it many times. Seek and ye shall find, and when you find, you will be disturbed. But once you are disturbed, you will marvel, and after you marvel, you will reign over all, and then you will have peace. So the more you seek to know who you are, the more you find out who you are. After you find out who you are, yeah, it's going to be disturbing because there's some stuff about you ain't going to like. There's some changes you're going to have to make. And it's going to bother you. But once you start realizing it, you will marvel over it, and then you will reign over yourself. And once you have reign over your mind and your emotions, and then the two become one, then you will reign over everything that you are, and you'll be able to see deeper into the mysteries and be able to create the life that you truly have. And it won't be man's laws and man's rules and man's titles and man's culture that determines that love.